Hey, sixth graders, it's Mrs. Zimmerman here, and we're ready for another lesson on equations. Today's lesson is going to be all about solving them. We're going to just do one step. We're going to be adding and subtracting, and let me show you what I'm talking about. I'm going to head to the front. Like I said, today we are doing solving equations. So you're going to have something like this. And you're going to have to figure out, what does the x equal? And some of the numbers, you might be able to do them in your head, but sometimes they might be really big, like this. And that one, you might have to work out. And so what we're going to do is start first by looking at whether or not something is equal. Okay, because let's take this first equation that I have here, x plus 8 equals 20. Now, what could I put here for x to make this true? Well, let's see. I could try 10. If I put 10 there, would that work? What's 10 plus 8? That'd be 18, so not big enough. What if I tried 12? Would 12 plus 8 work? 12 plus 8 is 20. So if we put 12 here, that would make our equation true. Because if you remember, equations have to be equal on both sides. Whatever value this is has to equal this value. So let's look at our first type of problem. We have the directions tell us to tell whether the given value is a solution of the equation. So let's look at number 1. It says p plus 10 equals 38 if p equals 18. So my whole equation is this right here. And we want to know, if I put 18 for p, is this going to be true? Well, let's rewrite it and let's see. 18 plus 10 equals 38. 18 plus 10, you can do it off to the side, but if you know it in your head, it's 28. So does 28 equal 38? No. That is not a solution for this equation. Okay, that's what they want in these kind of problems. Let's try another one. 4y equals 56. So here, our whole equation is 4y equals 56. And they want to know, if y equals 14, is that going to be true? In order to figure this out, we're going to want to rewrite the equation. So instead of a y, we're going to write 14 equals 56. Okay, now you can multiply off to the side, or if you know what it is, 4 times 14 is 56. So 56 does equal 56. So in this equation, yes, it is a solution. So these are how you're going to solve this type of problem. You put the number in and see yes or no, is it a solution? The next thing we're going to have to do is talk about inverse operations. Today, we're only going to deal with adding and subtracting, okay? So what you need to remember is that addition and subtraction are inverses of each other, okay? If like they go together, you could say. So let me show you what I'm talking about. If we look at our first type of equation, the directions say to solve it and show your work. So let's look at our first one. X minus 2 equals 6. Okay, you might be able to do this in your head, and that is awesome, but the directions say that we need to show our work, and it is very important that we show our work, because as the numbers get bigger, you won't be able to do them in your head, so you need to know how to do these. So if we go back to talking about the inverse, in this problem I have a subtraction. Okay, if I go back to this chart, what's the opposite of subtraction? Addition. right? So here's how we solve equations. Oh yeah, here's how we solve equations. Instead of minusing 2, we're going to add 2 to both sides. And then you have to draw a line. Okay, now let's think about it. On the left side, I have a -2 and a +2. Well, -2 plus 2, they cancel each other out. So the only thing left on the x side of, or on the left side of my equal sign is an x. And that equals, what's 6 plus 2? 6 plus 2 we know is 8. So x equals 8. And if you're not sure, you could always just come over here and substitute, just like we did in the previous type of example. If x equals 8, does that make this equation true? Well, 8 minus 2 is 6. Does 6 equal 6? Yes, so we know our answer is right. So the benefit to these kind of problems is you can check your answers. So let's try another so you know. Okay, here we have 18 equals x minus 7. So the inverse of subtract is to add. So I'm going to add 7, and I'm going to add 7. Okay, now I have a -7 and a +7 over here on the right. They cancel, so I cross them out. The only thing left over here is an x, so I'm going to bring that down. And then I have my equal sign. And then I have to do 18 plus 7. Well, that would be 5. Carry the 1. That would be 25. X equals 25. Now, again, you could check your answers, rewrite it, and say 18 equals 25 minus 7. So we have 18 equals, what is 25 minus 7? 18. And you know you did your work right. What about this one? K minus 3 equals 1. Well, what's the inverse of subtract? It's add. So we're going to add 3 to both sides. It's just like, you know how fractions, what you do to the top, you have to do to the bottom? The same as with equations. What you do to one side, you have to do to the other side. So my 3's are going to cancel on this side, and I'm going to have K left equals, what's 1 plus 3? 1 plus 3 is 4. Hopefully you're kind of getting the hang of this. Let's try one like this. X plus 2 equals 9. Okay, now this one's a little bit different because you see how I have a plus sign here? I need to do the inverse of add. What's the inverse of add? This time we're going to subtract. So I need to subtract 2 from both sides. My 2's are still going to cross off, right? Because I have a plus 2 and a minus 2. So they still cancel, and I have x over here equals, what's 9 minus 2? Well, we know that's 7. And this type of problem works the exact same way. You can check your answer. Does 7 plus 2 equal 9? Well, 7, 8, 9. 9 equals 9. So I know my answer is correct. Let's try one more with an addition sign. Oh, I thought I had one. Well, let's just move on, okay? All right, let's try some more. Okay, now, ooh, got some decimals in here. All right, so we have a plus 5 and 5/10 equals 17 and 3/10. So what is the opposite of add? Subtract. So I'm going to minus 5.5 on both sides. Now, even though it's a decimal, we still have to do it to both sides. Okay? 5.5 and minus 5.5 are going to cancel. So all I have left over here is A. And A equals 17.3 minus 5 and 5/10. Well, we bring our decimal straight down. We're going to have to do some borrowing. 13 minus 5 is 8. bring my decimal straight down. 6 minus 5 is 1. And if I bring down the 1, I have A equals 11 and 8/10. Okay? Let's try another one. All right, we have 1 and 2/10 equals M minus 2 and 5/10. Okay, we're back to the inverse here. So what's the inverse of subtract? Add. So we're going to add 2.5 to both sides. It is very important that you show all of your work here because like I said, once we get to bigger numbers and more steps, it is going to be very important that you follow each step that I teach you. Okay, so now where am I? I crossed off my 2.5 and minus 2.5. I bring down my M equals, and then we just add. And 2 plus 1 is 3. So M equals 3 and 7/10. Okay, oh, all right, some fractions. Here we go. We have 3/4 equals J minus 1/2. All right, well, this is just like the other problems. I have subtract, so what's the inverse of subtract? Add. So I'm gonna add 1/2 and add 1/2. These are still gonna cancel, right? And all I have left on this side is J, which equals 3/4 plus 1/2. Well, we know in order to add, we have to have a common denominator, right? So let's put a common denominator here. I have a 4 and a 2, and I know that I can turn this into a 4 pretty easily because 2 times 2 is 4, so 1 times 2 is 2. And now I can add. Add the numerators. I have the 3 up here, so 3 plus 2 is 5, and I keep my denominator the same, which is 4, 5/4. Can I keep an improper fraction? No, I'm gonna have to turn that into a mixed number. So I just ask myself, how many times does 4 go into 5? Once. And how many are gonna be left over? 1. And then keep the 4 on the bottom. And this here would be the answer we were looking for. So fractions really are the exact same. Just remember when you add and subtract fractions, you have to have a common denominator. Let's see, we're not gonna do, let's try this one here, a little bit bigger of a one, okay? We have 854 equals K plus 112. All right, the inverse of add is subtract. So I'm gonna subtract 112 on both sides. All I have left is K. And now we're gonna minus. 4 minus 2 is 2, 5 minus 1 is 4, and that's 7. So K equals 742. And again, I will remind you, if you want to check your answer to see if you're correct, you just put it into the equation to see if you're right. So we know 854 is going to be on this side, and if I add these together, I am going to get 854. So I know my answer is correct. All right, let's try a story problem. Okay, you climb 12 feet on a rock climbing wall that is 25 feet high. Write and solve an equation to find the remaining distance to the top. Let's draw a picture, okay? Let's say, here's my climbing wall, okay, right? And it's got all the little things you grab onto. And we know that my climbing wall is 25 feet tall. Okay, and then I have climbed 12 feet, so that's almost half. They want to know, write and solve an equation to find the remaining distance. So what is this distance right here? between the two? So the first thing we need to do is write an equation. Okay, so let's write it out. The total length of the wall is 25. Okay, we know an equation has to have an equal sign, so let's start there. The 25 is my total, right? The total wall is 25 feet high. So is the 25 going to go on the problem side or the answer side? Well, it's going to go over here on the answer side because that's how tall the wall is. Now, what else do we know about the wall? If we're looking to find a total, right, the total distance is 25. I've climbed 12. A total would be plus D for distance. We'll pick D. 12 plus D equals 25, right? Because if I add this 12, pretend this is D, 12 plus D, well, that together would be 25. So, perfect. Now we're good to go. Oh, wait, no, we're not. Don't forget, we have to solve. Never forget, okay? Read the whole question. So they want us to solve. What is that distance? Well, we just have to do an equation. So we have 12 plus D equals 25. So we have a plus 12, so let's do minus 12 on both sides. My 12s are going to cancel, and on this side, all I'm going to have left is D. So D equals, well, 5 minus 2 is 3, 2 minus 1 is 1, so that distance is 13 feet. And here I have solved both questions that they want me to answer. Let's try another one. A pine tree is 120 feet tall. It is 40 feet taller than an elm tree. Write and solve an equation to find the height of the elm tree. Okay, so our pine tree, let's think. Pine trees look like this, right? Like a Christmas tree. Okay, my pine tree is 120 feet tall. And it is 40 feet taller than an elm tree. So elm tree, pretty sure is just like one of those trees, right? Okay, it's 40 feet taller. So that means the distance between here and here, right, the top of the pine tree and the top of this tree is 40, because the pine tree is 40 feet taller. They want to know, how tall is the elm tree? What's the height? Okay, well, let's think about it, okay? My pine tree is 120 feet tall. The first direction says to write an equation, so we need an equal sign. The 120, is it going to be on the problem side or the answer side? Look at our picture. If we combine the h and the 40, what is that going to equal? 120. So let's put the 120 on the answer side. And then over here, if we're combining h and 40, well, combine means to add, so that's just h plus 40 equals 120. That's my equation to figure that out. So the next part of the problem says to solve. So let's solve it. We have h plus 40 equals 120. All right, what's my inverse of add? Subtract. So I'm going to minus 40 on both sides. My 40s cancel. All I have left on this side is h equals, well, let's see, 120 minus 40, that's going to be 0. And I know 12 minus 4 is 8. So how tall is my elm tree? It's going to be 80 feet. And there we have answered both parts of the question. Okay, let me head back. All right, hopefully that was a good lesson for you on how to solve equations with addition and subtraction. Check back for the next video, which will be multiplication and division.